40 for the rapper, busy man shit, nigga. They tear their head off, nigga. I read what Eve did to Adam, I just pray my love don't lie to me. Swing the iron like Samson, I can't let no holder lie to me. I don't feel these rappers, all they lies is hypocrisy. Ain't no competition, ain't no rivalry. Niggas think I'm playing, I don't hear one word they saying, this shit light work. Think Muhammad one of us, he might lose his life first. Circle up and stay alert, another cop just stretch the nigga. He a demon, this an exorcism, watch I bless the nigga. You took that oath in blood, then you know I'm gon' get active with you. From the opposition, I see vision, let me paint the picture. Rappers claim they spin, I ain't listening, is in fact the fear. If revenge was a woman, now I scope that bitch like Jack the Ripper. War, we gon' run the summer, it's gon' be historical. Thought they making plays, made them niggas call the audible. Ask who run this shit, but that question is rhetorical. Bitch, I'm the one, me cookies with the oil. I'ma get them crackers, hell, should've never kidnapped my family. I can't just do damage, bet I be the last nigga standing. Do a life sentence for my niggas, pray you understand me. I might put a switch on this Glock and call it young baby. How you real triggering on them dots? You a bird feeder, claiming he a demon. What's a demon to a cold leader? What he saying something, I ain't hear him, this shit light. It ain't about who got the gun, it's about who gon' up that pipe first. I turn a bad situation to a game changer. Bring soldiers from the dead, just raised up the chain free. Shots, I'ma look like Aaron Jones when I run it. Never bite the hand that feeds you, you won't never get that hand back. He bitchin' about 10%, I don't wanna hear none of that. He dropping sword, fuck him, just make sure you get that cover back. Look around, he ain't with us, probably cause he never was. Now my chin like you with the angels for your brothers. Everybody wanna be Richard Porter, God kill him like Alpo. Play if he want, it's laying in the trunk like Lee Malvo. I'm a certified woman's ass nigga, I am not a toy. Hey, out with that hollow sign, yeah, this the rim accord. Feel like Gullah Jack when I'm in Fayetteville, you feel your boy. Still about my brain, still I think that's all that I do. The way I get that boy lost, they gon' start to call him Elroy. Fuck his game, pop out on them demons like I'm Hellboy.
Right, Shalom Israel, Yahab Bashim Yahshua Brakathum and all the brothers. Shalom Yahab Shamar Latham Bashim Yahshua all the sisters. It's the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yohana. This is the Monday night scripture breakdown class. If you got any questions on or off topic, you go ahead and put them in the chat. If you watching live in class, you go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll go ahead and get them addressed for you. You know what I mean? You hecklers as well, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, get up in here. You know what I mean? And Lord willing, eventually all of you, you know what I'm saying, all you scoffers, you know what I mean, will end up eventually in all black. I mean, changing your life, you know what I mean? Putting down that blunt, putting down all of, you know what I'm saying, getting about that world, getting that Christianity up off you, you know what I'm saying, getting that lack of brotherhood off of you, and coming up in here and learn how to be a real man and learn how to lead men. You know what I'm saying? Lead a nation of people who desperately needs blacks, Hispanics, and Native American leadership. All right. But I mean, with that, you know what I'm saying, we're going to go ahead and get into our topic for tonight. Obviously, last night was New Year's Eve. Today is the so-called New Year's. I mean, tonight we're going to talk about New Year's and all of these holidays. And it's so poetic how it all lines up, because I mean, we just got done with what was it? We just get all this week or all this month. For the past couple months, we've been talking about all these different holidays. We just got done talking about Halloween, breaking down the truth about Halloween, and urging blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to not celebrate these things. We just got done breaking down Thanksgiving and doing the same thing, urging blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans not to celebrate this. Christmas, same thing. And nobody heard a goddamn word we said. But it's so poetic. It's so poetic how it all comes together, because New Year embodies the entire spirit of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans during these holidays, which are vain holidays. They come from your oppressor, and they're your oppressor gods, and they have nothing to do with blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And at the end of the day, if you get into the history of it and the origin of it, you realize, like we have, for the past couple months, once we get into the breakdown and the history and the origin of it, you realize that these things mean nothing at all, especially to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And the spirit of the New Year's, the so-called New Year's, embodies the entire spirit of all these holidays, because it's all rooted in superstition. And that's thanks to your Christian church, man. It's thanks to your Christian church, because your so-called Christian pastors, who are supposed to be the religious authority and so-called leaders in the black, Hispanic, and Native American community, they dropped the ball with their role as leaderships, because they took a bribe. They took a bribe from your oppressor. So now, instead of teaching you the truth according to the Bible, even though they open that Bible up and make you sing and dance, and they say God and Jesus, and they, they put on this big old show and claiming that the Christian church, is the house of God. In reality, they don't teach you the truth according to the Bible. But they will teach you all about Christmas, even though Christmas ain't in the Bible. They will teach you to celebrate New Year's when the New Year couldn't possibly be in the dead of winter. We're going to get into that tonight. They teach you about Halloween, even though Halloween damn show ain't in the Bible, but they'll teach you all these different things. They teach you about the Easter bunny, even though bunnies don't lay eggs and all of that. Just all sorts of nonsense. And they'll teach you these things, even though it's not in the Bible and it has nothing to do with the Most High or Christ, because they don't teach the Bible. They teach what your oppressor teaches them to teach. Your Christian pastor tells you what your oppressor tells him to tell you, which has nothing to do with the Bible. Because the Bible says for us to be separate. The Bible says that we are above all people. Now, we aren't supposed to follow after these other heathen nations and other heathen, their customs, because they're vain. That's what the Bible says. But your Christian pastor won't teach you that, because they are liars by design, because they can't get your money or get your attendance in their church. They can't get your participation in their church financially and physically. They can't get access to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans without lying to you. So the Christian church is full of snakes and con men to lull you into sleep. And your Christian pastor's been lulled to sleep with a bribe, and now they get paid to lull you into sleep. It's like, let me turn my phone off. But they get paid to lull you into a deep sleep. So now, even though, and the crazy part about it, the crazy part about it is we know it's nonsense. Like, when it comes to all these different customs, Halloween, we know that that's evil, and we know it's ass backwards, where you teach your child all throughout the year, never take candy from strangers. But then on Halloween, you dress them up and send them out to some sexual deviant's house to ask a stranger for candy. I mean, you see the contradiction there. I mean, some on Christmas, some fat pink man is not coming. You know what I'm saying? Some fat pink man you don't know ain't coming down some chimney you don't have to give your kids presents. You know that you getting them presents, and I mean your kids halfway know that you getting them presents because all throughout the year they asking you for them. I mean, but for the kids that really don't know, and I mean, it's so evil that we teach our kids these lies. Like we teach them these lies, knowing that eventually down the road we're gonna have to unteach them these lies. So why teach them in the first place? We know it's all nonsense. We know it's garbage, and we know that it's misinformation that we're gonna eventually have to break it to our kids that it's not true. I mean, we know the history behind Thanksgiving. We know that it's rooted in the genocide and the mass unaliving of Native Americans. But we still going with the motions anyway. It's because we've been lulled to sleep. We've been lulled to sleep, man, by our so-called religious leaders, and we've been lulled to sleep through hard bondage. So what we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks is the reason why we do all of these things is because we slaves. It's because we slaves. And the crazy part about it is now, because we're slaves, because, you know what I mean, because we slaves, we cling to, instead of teaching our children, instead of teaching one another and actually believing and clinging onto the truth, we cling to superstitions because we feel powerless to change our situation. And that's the title of the class. I mean, your superstitions come from your powerlessness. Your powerlessness makes you superstitious because you have no power to affect change in your life. I mean, you're poor, you're struggling paying your bills, you know what I mean? Living check to check, no matter what you do, no matter what avenue you take, you still on the bottom in this country, in this world, where you got celebrities making millions of dollars. So, you know what I'm saying? To our eyes, as far as we could see, they making millions of dollars. But now you see these celebrities even coming out and saying, we poor up here. It just looked nice. You know what I'm saying? They just driving a little bit nicer car than you, but they worried about their mortgage, just like you are. They worried about how they gonna keep food on their table. You know what I mean? Just like you are. They worried about they're getting underpaid and overworked, just like you are, black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. Where you feel like you on the bottom, the people on the, you know what I'm saying, black people on the top, Hispanics on the top, Native Americans on the top, they feel they going through the same thing as we are. You know what I mean? And at the bottom. You know what I mean? But the reason why, and that just explains why, I mean, it's celebrities. I mean, celebrities who we feel or who we look at as being on top, and I mean, this, that, and the third, whatever the case is, we look at them, they rich and living lavish, and we want to get like them. Guess what? They superstitious just like you, black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. And it's all for the same reason. It's because you don't have any power in this country or in this world to change your situation. And no matter where you look, no matter where you turn, you see other blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in the same situation, if not much, much worse. And you feel like you don't have any power to change their situation. So what do? You burn sage. You burn sage. You eating, I know y'all eating them black eyed peas and them collard greens today or last night. I don't know how it worked. You know what I mean? But y'all walking backwards into y'all homes and doing that deep cleaning. I mean, that spring cleaning. That's the same spirit. You know what I mean? All the, you know what I'm saying? You name it. You name it. Same with you know what I mean? Same with the reason why we wear crosses. You know what I'm saying? As blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We got the Jesus piece. We get the Jesus piece tattooed on you. You know what I mean? You live in a diabolical life where you might be a drug dealer or a so-called sex worker or, you know what I mean, or whatever they calling them nowadays. What you wearing a Jesus piece or the cross. You know what I mean? Burning them Catholic candles. Crossing your fingers, you refuse to split a pole, you burning all that sage, and you follow every horoscope and every warning that your horoscope gives you. is because all of those are superstitions, because all of those things don't affect change in your life, but it makes you feel, it gives you that comfort to make you feel like you've done something in your life to be able to affect change in a situation that you are completely powerless in. But that's where that comes from. I mean, that's why we celebrate Christmas. That's why we celebrate New Year's. That's why, you know what I'm saying, what is January? That's why coming up, we gonna celebrate whatever there is to celebrate because we superstitious and we feel like we powerless to change our situation. So whenever a brother say Santa Claus ain't real, it's damn near like telling a kid Santa Claus ain't real or New Year's ain't real or, you know what I mean, Valentine's Day ain't real. When you tell a grown, full-blown adult that all of these holidays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all of those things, your birthday, you shouldn't be celebrating, all of those things. When we tell full-blown adult Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that we shouldn't be doing these things, it's damn near like telling a kid that we shouldn't be doing those things. It's like, no, they ain't trying to hear that. I'm not trying to hear that. I'm not ready to hear that. I know, but it's because it makes you comfortable to do all of those things. But what you got to do, and a freeing thing for you to understand as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the most freeing thing that you can understand is the reason why you feel this way, the reason why you feel like you don't want to let those things go, you don't want to let Christmas go, you don't want to let New Year's go. You're going to celebrate Juneteenth, and then right after that, you're going to celebrate the 4th of July. The reason why you do those things is because you feel powerless. And that's going to be so freeing to understand that you're powerless in this world to change your situation so that you can realize that there is one way where we can regain power in this world. And we're going to get into that as well. All right, so we're going to talk about this New Year's. You know what I mean? We're going to break that down, where it actually comes from, what it means to your oppressor, what it means to you, which is two different things, and how we can regain power in this world so that we don't have to feel powerless no more. All right, so what you got to understand is your oppressor's New Year, their so-called New Year starts in the dead of winter. Dead of winter. So we've been in winter for about a week, for about a month or so. You know what I mean? December, January, February, it's winter. You know what I mean? Depending on where you at, where you grow up, or even, you know what I'm saying? Depending on where you at, you know what I mean? It's cold, it's dead cold wherever you at. It's below freezing temperatures. You know what I mean? Even in the fall, like things start to die. Leaves start falling off of trees. It's hard to grow things because of the weather, because of the you know what I mean? Just the condition of the temperature and the condition of the weather, right? So nothing is new. Nothing can be new in the dead of winter because this just isn't the climate for things to be new. So, I mean, your oppressors, that should be the first red flag for Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. We call this the New Year, January 1st. We call it so-called New Year, but nothing is new. What you got to understand is this is not the New Year. We are still in the dead of winter, but the real New Year is in the middle of spring. And we're going to get that in the scriptures. Let's go ahead and go to Salakia. Let's go ahead and go to Exodus chapter 12 and verse 1 real quick. What you got to understand, what we got to start doing is using practical knowledge. See, this is the Israelite school of universal practical knowledge. So everything that we teach, everything that we learn in this school, in this body, is practical and knowledge that's universal that we can use in any situation. You know what I'm saying? We can apply these things that we learn in these scriptures and we can use that in our everyday life so that we don't, you know what I mean? So that we can avoid these pit traps and these snares that your oppressor has left for you. And we're going to get why that's important in a little bit as well. But this is the book of Exodus, chapter 12, starting at verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. All right. So this is what the Most High is telling Aaron and Moses what the first month is. Now, let's get a little bit more context on what this first month is and where this first month, you know what I'm saying? What's going on in this first month? And what's the indicator for? See, we celebrate the so-called New Year in America. We celebrate the so-called New Year in the so-called first month called January, right? But the Most High saying this right here is the first month. Now we're gonna find out whether we're talking about January or we talking about another month. All right. So let's go ahead and go to the book of Exodus chapter 13, verse 3. The book of Exodus chapter 13, verse 3. And Moses said unto the people, Remember this day in which ye came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by strength of hand the Lord brought you out from this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten. Verse 4. So now we talking about the time where the Most High brought the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the so-called Israelites, out of bondage in Egypt. So this is what we're talking about. When Aaron and Moses in chapter 12, or when the Most High was telling Aaron and Moses in chapter 12 that this is the first month, we're still in that same month. And the Most High, or Moses, is telling the people to remember this day where the Most High brought us out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of bondage. We're talking about the same time period. Now we're gonna figure out exactly what time period we in. Verse 4. This day came ye out in the month of Abib. That's very important. The month of Abib. Now, what's the month of Abib? Now, what I'm going to tell you is this is the real New Year. The month of Abib, this is the actual New Year. But because we just read this is the first month in chapter 12, we just we just read the name of the month in chapter 13. All right, we're talking about the same time period, but we know that the month of Abib is the first month of the year, which would be the new year, just like what your oppressor would call January as the new year. But let's get the definition of Abib, the month of Abib, and what Abib means. Actually, let me do this as well, Salakia. Salakia, bear with me 1 second. We're gonna go ahead and get it in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, and we also gonna get it in Bible Hub. I mean, if you're not familiar with Bible Hub, you know what I'm saying, it's the app that we use every Friday and Saturday. I mean, to get through to learn the Lashawan Kodash, which is the Hebrew, which is the language that the Old Testament was written in and translated from. All right, so we're going to get the definition of Abib in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. We're going to get the definition of Abib in the Hebrew so that we can get multiple sources, so we can cross-reference these sources and actually see, we get a full 360 scope of what the hell we talking about in these scriptures. All right. So we just read Exodus chapter 3 and verse 4, which had the word Abib in it. All right. So again, we're going to get it in English, and then we're going to get it in Lashawan Kodash. All right. So this is the definition of Abib in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. The pre-exilic name for the first month of the year, found in Exodus chapter 3, verse 4, which is what we just read, which is what we was talking about in Exodus chapter Salakia, chapter 13, verse 4, which is what we was talking about in chapter 12 as well. This is the name before the Exodus of the first month of the year. And it's found in Exodus chapter 13, verse 4, which we just read. All right. After the exile, the name was changed to Nisan. It fell about the time of our march in early April. So now our oppressor now goes by the Gregorian calendar. So it goes January, February, March, April, May, so on and so forth. So according to the Gregorian calendar that your oppressor goes by now, and that we go by because we in hell, this month of Abib will translate into what you would call late March and early April. All right. This will be around the time of late March, early April. What falls during the late March and early April? This is about the time of the Passover. And we know that because the Passover is all about this Exodus. So that's the whole point of the Passover, for us to remember that the Most High brought us out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of bondage, from the captivity of the Egyptians. Right? But so if this is the first month of the year, or if this is the first month, and it just said the month of Abib fell in what we would call March or April, around that time, then January is not the new year. It just said right here. We just read it. It just said right here that the new year falls in March and April. And that makes sense because things are new during the new year. That's why it's called the new year, when things are new. So this New Year's not this Happy New Year's nonsense that we pushing, you know what I mean, following after our oppressor, you know what I mean, it's garbage. And it don't make no sense. Again, that's what we talked about earlier. So we was talking about you know what I mean, we just doing these things. We know that this is garbage. And I bet, you know what I mean, I could bet any amount of money that, you know what I mean, you get some of these blackity blacks up in these comments, you get some of your family members, some of your aunties, your uncles, your grandparents and all of that, brothers and sisters, you get them all up in here and they'll tell you, yeah, I know this is this, that, and the third. I know this is, we some knowing, we know everything, don't we? You know what I mean? We some of the knowingest brothers and sisters, you know what I'm saying, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we know everything. But why do we do it? We do it for the children. And we do it because because my family over there, my grandma, I just want to be around family. It's for the family. It's for the children. It's for my wife and all that. It's because we superstitious. And the only reason, even though we know that these things are lies, we hold on to them anyway because they make us feel comfortable in this earth where we feel powerless to change our situation, where we got our oppressor's foot on our neck and we just follow, we just celebrate these holidays, we celebrate these customs knowing that they lies, because in this hell, that's the only amount of comfort that we could find. But what we teach in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge is that you don't have to settle for these lies. You don't have to follow after these vain customs that you know are lies. You could just follow these laws, statutes, and commandments, and we can get up out of this situation. And we don't have to feel powerless. But that, in a nutshell, is why we do the things that we do, why we follow the customs that we follow after, why we keep the customs that we keep, why we celebrate the holidays that we celebrate, and succumb to we kneel and bow ourselves to these other nations' gods and these other nations' customs, even though we know that they don't even make sense from top to bottom. It's because we want comfort in this powerless situation. But I don't want to jump the gun. We're going to, you know what I mean? We're going to slow walk through this thing and get this entire breakdown. All right, let's go ahead and get Deuteronomy chapter 16 real quick. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 16. We're going to start at verse 1. All right. And it reads, Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. So this is exactly what we were just talking about just a second ago. The month of Abib is during the month of the Passover, which we just read right here. It says, observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. All right. So there you go. We just tied it all the way together. The month of Abib is the first month, but it's not January. We just read in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. It's the first month, but it's April and or between March and April. I mean, the end of March and early April. All right, we just read it right there. And it's during the time of the Passover. That's the real New Year. So now that we understand that, we can put down, we could put down this New Year. So now that begs the question, well, if the New Year is during the middle of between March and April, during the middle of spring, during the Passover, and not in January, then where does this January 1st nonsense come from? Well, we're gonna break it down. Let's go ahead and get Genesis chapter 1 verse 5 real quick. And real quick before we get into, because we're gonna talk about where actual New Year come from. But before we get into that, what we gotta understand is your oppressor don't even know how to divide the days. But another thing you gotta understand is the Most High gave us these instructions in the Bible. See, I understand why Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans want to discard the Bible. Or I understand why we cling to the Bible too. Certain brothers and sisters, your aunties, your uncles, your grandparents, they cling to the Bible, and they, even though they ain't read barely anything up in that Bible, they don't even understand the Bible, will cling to it. And I understand why, because it gives us comfort in this powerless situation. And I understand why brothers discard the Bible because of that. Because your Christian pastors and everybody who participates in that Christian church don't even read or understand that Bible, and they cling to it, and they don't even understand it, and they want to love everybody, and because they cling to it and they don't understand this Bible, they want to teach you. They want to teach you all these lies and this rhetoric that this Christian rhetoric that just the good old Christian script. God loves everybody, and the blood gonna cover everybody, and everybody get into heaven, and nobody's bad in the Christian church somehow. You get to talking about the Christian church, they'll scold you for for brothers and sisters who was dragged into that Christian church. They'll scold you for not wanting to go to church. They'll threaten you with hell, which is some imaginary place underground that that the Romans made up, right? Or your Christians just ran with. But they'll threaten you with hell if you don't want to go to church. If you don't want to go to Bible study, if you don't want to go to, whatever Christian function they got. They'll threaten you with hell. But Salakia. But they'll threaten you with hell real fast. But somehow nobody in the Christian church is going to hell. Nobody in the world is going to hell. You got your cousin Pookie, who's spent his whole life in and out of jail, on the corner selling, whatever he can get his hands on, doing all sorts of crime and all of that. And then, once the brother might pass away, or a sister might spend her whole life on a stripper pole and in the streets, on Bizanet, and she ended up losing her life. And that brother and sister who lived the opposite life of what the Christian church teach. You got them on a T-shirt with wings and all of that. And I ain't, don't get me wrong, I ain't trying to wish no ill will on no brother, no sister, man. I know we living in hell, and because of that, we just clinging to what gives us relief in this world. You know what I mean? So, you know what I'm saying? I ain't knocking you brothers. You know what I mean? Even though we need to get up out of that lifestyle, you know what I mean? I don't wish no ill will, no Black, Hispanic, and Native American brothers and sisters. But what you got to understand is the hypocrisy of the Christian church, where they'll teach you about this imaginary place underground where you'll burn forever. But then, I mean, according to the Christian church, nobody's going there. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to hell. Nobody's, and because of that, now you feel obligated to love your oppressor. You feel obligated to love your oppressor, love your child abuser, love your you know what I mean, your unaliver, you know what I mean, love the people who have abused you for hundreds of years and turn a blind eye to the people who abuse you and your family. I mean, that's the condition of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans today. That's the conditions of our families because of the Christian church. So I understand both sides of the coin. I understand why brothers, you know what I mean, I understand why brothers and sisters, you know what I mean, are leaving the Christian church. Because if you ain't noticed, brothers and sisters are leaving that church and everybody becoming spiritual. You know what I mean? So I understand that to a degree. And I understand, you know what I mean, why brothers and sisters cling to the Bible. But what you got to understand is that if you actually open this up and read it, you'll find that this is a book about Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, written for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, by Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You know what I mean? And the most high power is the God of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And if you read it, it's written in the language of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, in the lingo of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. But we got to open these pages and actually understand that this is our history book. And we're going to get a little bit of that. We're going to get some more of that in a little bit as well. But what you got to understand is this Bible ain't got nothing to do with your oppressor. So they don't even know how to divide the days. Like, you talking about, you know what I'm saying? We talking about the new year. And, you know what I mean? Your oppressor's new year is in January. But we just read in the Bible that the new year is in what you would call March or April, in late March or early April. So you think they got the new year wrong? They don't even know how to divide the days. Black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. And after we get this real quick, I'm gonna show you why that's so important. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 5. And it says, "And God called the light day, and darkness he called night." So this is how we divide the days, Black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. It says, "And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night." So we understand that. So when it's light outside, it's daytime. And when it's dark, it's nighttime. "And the evening and the morning were the first day." So when it becomes evening, when that sun starts to go down, when the sun goes down, so right now in Texas, the sundown is around like 6:30, right? So around that time when the sun goes down, to when the sun goes down and when the sun comes up, that's the next day. So between when the sun goes down right now till the next sundown, then that's your next day. So why do I say this? Why do I bring this up? Because your oppressor got you, you know what I mean, last night, I know a lot of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you know what I mean, your oppressor had you outside counting down the days, or counting down the minutes, the seconds, till what? Midnight last night. You know what I mean, I halfway forgot about it last night, and then all of a sudden, you know what I mean, and I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, but I'm so accustomed to it. Like, I was so out of the loop. Like, I heard them fireworks and stuff going off in the middle of the night. I just thought it was gunshots. I was like, well, they acting up again. You know what I mean, I just heard it. I was like, yep, that's them. They got that artillery out. They got that hardware out. You know what I mean? But come to find out, as usual, you know what I mean, we standing outside, you know what I mean, busting fireworks, counting down, till midnight. But that's not what the scripture just said. It said, "And the evening and the morning were the first day." That's how you mark the days. So, so right now as we teach in class, what was today? What's today? Monday. It was Monday. Right at sundown, we headed into tomorrow. So we headed into what you would call Tuesday, just so you can understand. But sundown, the days are marked by the sun, by evening. When the sun goes down and come, and between sundown tonight and sundown tomorrow is the next day. That's how we mark the days. So your oppressor can't even get the days right. We should damn sure not be listening to him for nothing, man. We shouldn't be listening to your oppressor about nothing, about a damn thing, cause your oppressor clearly don't know nothing about what he's talking about. So with that being said, so how we get this far off? How we get the, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? The Bible says that the days are from sundown to sundown, from even to even. But your oppressor says from midnight to midnight is the new day. The Bible says that the new year is in the month of Abib, so your so-called March or April, where your oppressor would say that the new year is in the dead of winter in January. So how do we get there? So what we got to understand is, again, all of these other holidays and all of these other superstitions that we cling to all come from, well, all these other holidays and all these superstitions that we cling to, they come from our service to our oppressors' gods, which aren't real. There's only one living God. So lock you. Let me get this real quick. Let me get it in the Bible real quick. So lock you. Let's go to Exodus chapter 20 real quick. Exodus chapter 20. And this is why this is so important. Like, what we do in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, you know what I mean? What you got to understand is this is absolutely not the Christian church. This is not the Christian church. And we don't, you know what I mean? What you will find if you come into the ISUPK, you know what I mean, and sit down in class and take notes and learn something, what you'll find is what we teach is nowhere near what your Christian pastor would teach in the church. But they claim to teach out of the same Bible, but we're going to show you word for word what the Bible says and give you the word for word breakdown of what it's actually saying. And what you're going to understand is if you take this information that we teaching in the ISUPK and you take that to your Christian pastor, they're not going to have an answer because they know that they've been lying to you. They've been withholding these scriptures and the truth about the Bible from you so that they can continue to get your money because that's what they're paid to do. That's what they're commissioned to do. That's what they're promoted to do. But what you got to understand is even though it might feel good to celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, it might feel good to get out there with them fireworks and do the countdown and go to them New Year's parties and fulfill all these lusts that we want to fulfill. It might feel good to get high and do all of these different things. Hold on to those superstitions. It might feel good because that's the only relief that you feel like you can get in this hell, where we feel like we powerless and we hopeless in this world, where I ain't got to tell you how hopeless it is to be black in this country, let alone this world, to be black and Hispanic. But what you got to understand is if we let those things go, then we can have life more abundantly in this world, man. We can If we let go of the superstitions and we let go of our oppressors culture, then we can get a full understanding of what's going on in this world. And we don't have to feel powerless because our power comes from the Most High. And the Most High, if we follow the Most High, we go back to our culture, we go back to our laws, statutes, and commandments, then we don't have to feel powerless because we will rule in this world, man. That's the whole point. The Most High in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6, it says the Most High chose us to be a special people, to be above all nations. That's what the scriptures say. And that's something that you will never hear in the Christian church. But if we come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments, we don't have to feel that powerlessness and that hopelessness that makes us superstitious, to where you got to go to work in the morning and you don't know, you know what I mean? You don't know what type of day you're going to have. Where you working yourself to the bone, you tired today. You ain't feel like going in today, but now you just got off. You just got off of your slavery, and now you worn out, and all you can do is go home, go to sleep, and wake up and do it all over again, where you can't even see your children or your family. I mean, that's the life that we live. So all you could do is go home, maybe get you a little drink, maybe roll you a little blunt, you know what I mean, and get high, or this, that, and the third, and then go back to your slavery. I know that type of hopelessness. That's the hopelessness that we feel in America. But if we come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments, we don't have to feel that anymore. If we was, because we be in rulership like the Most High intended from the beginning. But it starts right here. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. See, that's so important because, as we brought up earlier, all of these false doctrines, all of these false idols, all of these religions that we go to, we become Buddhist, we become Hindu, we become, Kemet, you know what I'm saying, Egyptologists, you know what I mean, we become spiritual, we become Muslims, we become all these different things, and we become, you know what I'm saying, we lean on all these superstitions. We lean on, you know what I mean, we got our sisters burning sage, and we out here you name it, you know what I'm saying? You name whatever superstition, you know what I mean? The only time you clean that house, you know what I mean, is on New Year's or during the, you know what I'm saying, during the spring, you know what I mean? When your calendar says spring, now you got to do a spring cleaning. And now you know what I'm saying, during New Year's, you got to clean that house. When that house been filthy all damn year. You know what I mean? You got all these silly quirks about us where, you know what I mean, I know brothers and sisters who won't even, you know what I mean, you walking up the street and y'all don't walk on the same side of the pole. They will stop in the middle of foot traffic and they will have a fit in the middle of the sidewalk until somebody comes back around and walks back around that pole. You know what I mean? This is how silly we become, man. It's because, read it again. This book of Exodus chapter 20, verse 3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. It's because, you know what I mean, we've chosen all these other gods. That superstition is your God. Black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. That's the truth about it. That superstition is your God. Christmas has become your God. Santa Claus has become your God. You know what I'm saying? The Easter Bunny has become your God. That blunt has become your God. And that, what we don't realize is that's what's keeping us in this condition where we feel helpless, to where now we lean on these superstitions and these silly things that mean nothing. And we know it means nothing. Like how much, you know what I mean? How much do you think, how many times do you gotta, let me think, superstitions. I know some, you know what I'm saying? I know some brothers or sisters, you know what I mean? You got it's all types of superstitions. You know what I mean? I know now, you know what I'm saying, during what's it called? New Year's, Salakia. During the New Year's, you know what I mean? You making that pot of black-eyed peas. You know what I mean? I was up in the store, you know what I mean, all this week, and I'm seeing all these black-eyed peas, and I'm like, what the hell? I ain't seen a bag of black-eyed peas all throughout the year, but then the grocery store put it right in your face. And put it right in your face. And I'm wondering what the hell's going on. Come to find out, it's a New Year tradition. I didn't know that until maybe a year or two ago that, black people eat black eyed peas and collard greens for good luck. Now how many pots of collard greens and black eyed peas you got to eat, and then tomorrow you find out that you're getting laid off of your job, or you find out that that your landlord is raising your rent this year, and you find out that, well, you name it. The same life that you was living last year. You making that New Year's resolution to do all these. You getting in the gym and all that, and it sound good. But how many more New Year's resolutions you got to make before you realize that don't mean nothing? You know what I mean? How much sage you got to burn in your house before you realize that it's your poor decision making that's got you in the situation that you in? You know what I mean? Like, what does it take for us to realize? What does it take for us to realize that the reason why we in the situation that we in is because we've chosen all of these different superstitious things over the most high, the only, oh, we've chosen all these superstitious things over the only power that can get us out of this situation. We've chosen to lean on getting high to comfort us in this situation, when leaning on the law, statutes, and commandments and actually following our culture can get us out of this situation altogether. We leaning on, we teaching our kids, we deliberately teaching our kids lies about Santa Claus and all the, this, that, and the third, trying to give them a little bit of comfort in this hell that we living in, trying to give them a little bit of joy and fun and happiness in this world, when we can just peel away from those things and go back to our culture and get out of this situation altogether. But it's because we've chosen, we've chosen, we've chosen black eyed peas and collard greens as our God. We've chosen Happy New Year's and fireworks as our God. We chose Juneteenth and the 4th of July as our God. And that's what we gotta understand. That's what we gotta understand. It starts right there. And if only we would just separate from our oppressor and what he tells us to do, separate from that Christian pastor, and separate from the things that he learned from our oppressor to teach you in that Christian church. If only we would just separate from all these other nations who feed off of us, then we wouldn't have to be superstitious to make ourselves comfortable in this hell. We could just get out of hell. Don't that sound like a better life? We trying to get comfortable in hell. We trying to get a little bit of relief in hell, like Lazarus and the rich man. We trying to get a little bit of comfort in hell. We could just get out of hell by following these commandments, man. Salakia. But what you got to understand is following these customs. We're following these customs, following these holidays, especially, just to stay on topic. I try not to go off the rails too much. But Salakia, let me find. There we go. But what we got to realize is that, Salakia, what we got to realize is that all these, and we've been going over them all throughout for the past couple months. We've been going over all of these holidays. We went over Thanksgiving, the history behind Thanksgiving. We went over the history of Halloween. We went over the history of Christmas. And here we are going over the history of New Year's. And what you're going to find, the common denominator of all of these holidays is that all of these holidays are rooted in the worship of your oppressors' gods. That's why we just read Exodus chapter 20, verse 3. You shouldn't have no other gods other than the Most High Power who led us out of Egypt, man. But all of these holidays that we take comfort in, that we feel like we just can't live without, we just can't have our kids. God forbid we teach our kids the truth about these holidays. God forbid we teach. God forbid we don't teach our kids about Santa Claus. You know what I mean? God forbid we don't celebrate Christmas. You know what I mean? God forbid we don't celebrate their birthday. You tell your peoples around you that you don't celebrate Christmas or your birthday, and they gon' or you don't celebrate your your kid's birthday, or you don't celebrate Christmas with your kid. You don't teach them about Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny. They gonna gasp. Just look at the fate. Like, you know what I'm saying? I dare brothers and sisters to try it. To try it. You know what I mean? Don't celebrate Christmas. Don't celebrate your kid's birthday and all of that. And let some of your family members or your kids' teachers or some of your coworkers catch wind of that. They gonna gasp and they gonna arch their eyebrows and look at you funny. You damn near gonna lose your kids. You might as well have your kids in some damn concentration camp or some shit. Oh, Salakia. You might as well have your kids in some concentration camp. You know what I mean? The way that's gonna sound to them, where you just tell them that you don't teach them lies. But that's really what it boiled down to. You know what I mean? You tell them you just don't teach them lies. You don't teach them about Santa Claus. You know what I mean? If you teach somebody about some stranger coming down your chimney, that's absolutely fine. But you teach your kids that that's not true, then they're gonna look at you like you shouldn't even have kids. That you just so cruel. They're gonna look at you so cruel. And that's how backwards we've become in this world. But we're gonna get into the truth about New Year's. See what New Year's come from is, well, we're gonna read it. We're gonna read it. I ain't gonna jump the gun. The lock, yeah. Let me see, make sure y'all see that on the screen. So the title of this article is, why does the new year begin on January 1st? Now, we just talked about, you know what I mean? We just talked about the actual new year is during the end of March, early April. So with that being said, this article is asking, why does the new year begin on January 1st? Meaning, why do we celebrate the new year during January? And it's going to break down where this comes from. So it says, our celebration of New Year's Day on January 1st is a human-made creation, meaning the New Year's celebration that you know it as today. Salakia. The New Year's celebration that we keep today in America on January 1st is man-made. So it doesn't come from the Most High. It's not nothing spiritual. It's not nothing special. It's man-made. Just like right now, like if you look on your calendar, you know what I mean? You go to Target, buy yourself a calendar, and you open it up and you get to looking through them holidays. You gonna see they got National Friendship Day. They got a holiday for every day of the year. They got National Friendship Day, National Brother Day, National Sister Day, National Taco Day, National Brownie Day, National Margarita Day, National, like, every day is a new holiday. Meaning, and that should just let you know that, like we just read in this article, our celebration of New Year's Day on January 1st is a human-made creation. Meaning, New Year's, just like National Taco Tuesday, just like National Margarita Day, just like National Best Friends Day, all of those is just something that somebody made up. It's a lie, and it's vain. It has nothing to do with black people, and it's nothing to be taken seriously. That's the most important takeaway from. That's the most important takeaway from that. I mean, because it's man-made, it's human-made, and it has nothing to do with you, it's not to be taken seriously. So we around here, you know what I mean, we feel like we see some crazy customs. You got, you know what I'm saying, I heard a custom where, you know what I mean, a sister, you know what I'm saying, you don't even, the first person to walk through you know what I mean, your doorway can't be a woman. You know what I mean? Because if you you know what I mean, for you your single sisters, a lot of sisters, you know what I mean, taking that seriously. I mean, or you or you know what I mean, you could just name it. Find your wildest superstition. You know what I mean? That's what we actually taking seriously. But those are man-made. Those are human-made creations. Reading on, it says it's not precisely fixed by any natural or seasonal marker. Meaning, again, it's in the dead of winter. It's not like it's talking about a new year. We call it the new year, but it's not precisely fixed by any natural or seasonal marker. Meaning we just read in the Bible where the new year or the month of Abib, the new year, what your oppressor would call the new year, it has a seasonal, a precise natural seasonal marker. Meaning during the beginning of spring is where the new year begins biblically. You know what I mean? Historically, that's where the new year is. That's a natural seasonal marker. But your New Year's on January 1st isn't based on that. Reading on, it's a civil event, no one defined by nature. Yet, for those of us in the northern hemisphere, where daylight recently ebbed to its lowest point and the days are starting to get longer again, there's a feeling of rebirth in the air. All right, so why is that? Why is that? You know what I mean? Even though it's in the dead of winter, nothing's new in the middle of January or the beginning of January, in the middle of winter, and it's clearly man-made and has no actual historical value, especially for blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Why do we get so hyped and superstitious about it? Why do we cling to it like it's our last? Like we just, you know what I mean? I know, I remember back in, well, I don't remember, but well, I remember back in 2012, you know what I mean, New Year's of 2012, yeah, you know what I'm saying, brothers, you know what I mean, or you got people committing all types of crime and fear of, you know what I'm saying, the world ending, killing themselves and or unaliving themselves and having all sorts of orgies and crazy sex parties and getting drunk out of their mind like we do every year. You know what I mean? So with that being said, with this New Year's having no historical value to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, why do we get alcohol poisoning on New Year's Eve and sleep with people we know we shouldn't be sleeping with? We go out and commit all sorts of crimes. You know what I mean? I don't know if I know if you in the hood, if you grew up in the hood, you know what I mean, you got brothers, you know what I mean, you know what I'm saying, taking advantage of the sound of the fireworks and using that as an opportunity to catch a body or, you know what I mean, rob brothers and do all sorts of crimes. You know what I mean? I don't know. I know back in the day, brothers, you know what I'm saying, was busting guns in the hood and all of that. You know what I mean? But that's what we do. We take advantage of the, you know what I'm saying, that's what happens in our neighborhoods, in our communities. But why do we do that? What, since it has no historical value to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, why do we do that? Well, we gonna find out. And what we gonna find out is what we've been saying this entire time has been exactly true. That it all stems from the worship of some false god, just like every other holiday. No surprise there. It says, so where does the New Year's Day concept come from? It seems it stems from an ancient Roman custom. Surprise, surprise. Just like Christmas, just like Thanksgiving, just like Halloween, just like what's it called? Valentine's Day, just like all of these, you name your holiday, you could trace it back to ancient Rome. You know what I mean? You could trace it back. A lot of them you could trace it back even further than that. But says it stems from an ancient Roman custom, the feast of the Roman god Janus. So that's where the name January comes from. January is named after the Roman god Janus. Now we're gonna read a little bit more, but Let's give you a little synopsis. Janus is a Roman god that had two faces, right? So he had the one face facing this way that was supposed to. Well, let me go ahead and just read it. I think it's about to say that anyway. He was the god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. All right. So again, you know what I mean? You had this two-faced God. You had one face that faced this way that was supposed to be a representation of beginnings, new beginnings, and all of that. And then you had a face that faced this way to represent endings or looking back to the past. All right. Reading on, this is also where the name for the month of January comes from, since Janus was depicted as having two opposite faces, which is what I just described. One face looked back to the past, and the other peered forward into the future. Right? So, likewise, on January 1st, we look back at the year that just ended and forward to the new year ahead. So this is where your New Year's resolutions that you never stick to, Black man, Hispanic man, Native American man, that's where that comes from. You know what I mean? From this god Janus. You thought that you was just, you know what I mean, you just trying to get your life organized. You thought you was just trying to get your life on track, and you was just looking like, okay, you know what I mean, this is what happened in the past, you know what I mean? This is the type of year, this is our 2020, and we're gonna see it all through, you know what I mean? We're gonna see it all over social media where brothers and sisters, they're gonna be all in the gym and they're gonna be trying to eat right, new year, new me, and this, that, and the third, and new beginnings, and new boyfriend, and new girlfriend, and new husband, and new divorce, and you just new this, new that. You know what I mean? You think that you just getting your life on track when really you paying tribute to a Roman god. That's why you feel so compelled to do it during January, where nothing is new. I mean, it's not because you just such this organized person. You just so reflective and so self-aware. You know what I mean? Because if it was all like that, then you would smoke a little bit less. You wouldn't be smoking that weed. You would put that weed down. You know what I mean? You would drink a little bit less alcohol. You would be a little bit less of a dragon to them kids or to your husband, for you sisters. You know what I mean? If you were just so reflective, but what you got to understand, it's not about you being reflective. It's because we're slaves. It's because we're slaves, and because we've been following after the customs of our oppressors for so many years, then now it just feels natural. Like when this time comes around, we just feel compelled. We just feel compelled to just follow after these heathen customs. Let me put up Janus up here for a little. This is what Janus looks like, by the way, while y'all looking, you know what I mean, online. But this is why we feel so compelled to follow after these customs. Because we're giving tribute, because we've been paying tribute to our oppressors' gods for so long. We've been following after the customs of our oppressors' gods for so long. Like now, like as we mentioned earlier, you know what I mean? Our blacks, Hispanics, and Native American brothers and sisters are leaving the Christian and Catholic Church like in droves, like, which, you know what I'm saying, kudos to that, you know what I mean, as you should be leaving those wicked establishments, because, you know what I mean, that's part of the reason why we live such you know what I mean, lives full of lies. That's why we live in the condition that we in today, because of the Christian and because of Christianity and Catholicism. So, you know what I mean, it's excellent that we're leaving the Christian church, but then, you know what I mean, we still keeping the customs of the Christian church. Like, you know what I mean, you leave the Christian church and you don't go to church, that's good, but you're getting high like a Christian. You know what I mean, you leaving your husband like a Christian, you divorcing your wife like a Christian. You know what I mean, you being just terrible you just being so cruel to these children, just like a Christian. You know what I mean? You celebrating Christmas like a Christian. You celebrating New Year's like a Christian. You celebrating Halloween and Thanksgiving like a Christian. You gonna celebrate you gonna celebrate Valentine's Day like a Christian. You gonna love everybody like a Christian. You know what I mean? You gonna celebrate you gonna celebrate Juneteenth like a Christian, and then right after that, you gonna go ahead, turn around, love everybody, and be in red, white, and blue on the 4th of July, just like a Christian. So we leaving the Christian church and the Catholic church, but we keeping the customs. And what you got to understand is we because we slaves, man, and we do what's comfortable. We do what's comfortable. So even after we leave the Christian church, it's just in us to we just compelled. Like you don't even understand why, but you just compelled to go get you some fireworks. You know what I mean? During the 4th of July, you just compelled to wear red, white, and blue and bust them fireworks off. You compelled to get you some of them nasty jelly beans and them heart candies on Valentine's Day. You compelled to just drink yourself to death on New Year's Eve. You know what I mean? And act like it's a new, like, you know what I'm saying? Make that New Year's resolution as if you really mean it. I mean, it's because it's in us because we've been keeping these customs for so long. Let's see if it's any more. It says to celebrate the New Year, the Romans also made promises to Janus. The tradition of New Year's resolution stems from this ancient custom. On January 1st, as the year began, it was customary to exchange cheerful words of good wishes. Shortly afterwards, on January 9th, the Rex Sacrum, a priesthood associated with the Roman Senate, offered the sacrifice of ram to Janus. So this is what they did. This is describing the Roman custom. I mean, and we don't even understand it. We don't even understand how deep this go. I mean, what you got to understand, these are Roman customs. These are Roman customs. These ain't got nothing to do with you Black, Hispanic, and Native American, man. But this is what has everything to do with you. I'll show you another article. See, this is what the New Year's means to you, Black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. This is your New Year's. And what you got to understand is you live the world that your oppressor lives in, and the world that you live in as a Black man or Hispanic or a Native American man is two different worlds. I mean, you living in a world or your oppressor living in a world where they just got you know what I'm saying? They're again, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, New Year's, we're gonna find out during Valentine's Day and all of these different holidays, there's gods and there's a Roman. There's gods attached to these holidays. There's false idols attached to these holidays, and there's Roman customs. You can trace all these things back to Rome, which is your oppressor's bloodline. They come from Romans and Italians and all of that. I mean, but you could trace that all the way back to their roots, back to Rome, where they came from. But we just doing it just to go through the motions. But what you got to understand is your origin with these holidays and your oppressor's origin with these holidays are two different things, man, because you live in two different worlds. And we're going to find out what your New Year was like. See, again, your oppressor's New Year's was Janus, and they making, you know what I mean, they making promises and good cheer and good New Year and, you know what I'm saying, giving words of encouragement to one another. But this was your New Year. Read this article from Time Magazine. Bear with me 1 second. But it's entitled, "The Slaves Dread New Year's Day the Worst. The Grim History of January 1st. So this is what you had to do, Black man, Hispanic man, and Native American man. We'll read it from the top. It says, Americans are likely to think of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day as a time to celebrate the fresh start of a new year to celebrate the fresh start that a new year represents. But there is also a troubling side to the holiday's history. In the years before the Civil War, the first day of the New Year's was often a heartbreaking one for enslaved people in the United States. In African American communities, New Year's Day used to be widely known as Hiring Day or Heartbreak Day. See, this is what New Year's was for you. See, they was celebrating, they was, you know what I'm saying, making sacrifices to Janus and paying tribute to Janus and these, you know what I'm saying, going back to their Roman roots. Meanwhile, New Year's Day was known as Heartbreak Day to you. And we're going to find out why. As the African American abolitionist journalist William Copernell described it, because enslaved people spent New Year's Eve, and I'm going to highlight this so y'all can, let me see. It says, because enslaved people spent New Year's Eve waiting, wondering if their owners were going to rent them out to someone else, thus potentially splitting up their families. Now, we're not a stranger to this. I mean, we already know Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American, man. This was a regular practice of your oppressor. And you can, like, I know for a fact, you know what I mean, this image right here should look very familiar. You know what I mean? This auction block, you know what I mean? This auction block, and you got your oppressors over here, you know what I mean? You got your oppressors selling Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And you got your oppressors over here bidding. You know what I mean? I know this image, you know what I mean? I used to see this image in textbooks in school. You know what I mean? But we're not a stranger to that practice where your oppressor would just sell us and split up our families. But this largely happened on the so-called New Year on January 1st. And we're gonna get into the history of it. I don't want to jump the gun. It says the renting out of slave labor was relatively common practice in the antebellum South and a profitable practice for white slave owners and hirers. Right, so it's going to get into the history of the hiring day, right? So hiring day was part of a larger economic cycle in which most debts were collected and settled on New Year's Day. Right. So basically, you know what I mean, we're going to read a little bit more, but basically, if a slave master owed another, you know what I mean, another oppressor some money or some, whatever the case, if he was in debt in any way to an oppressor, all of those debts had to be repaid by the end of the year. So on January 1st, if that oppressor couldn't pay his debt with money or with goods or whatever the case is, then you were rented out because we were property. So if your oppressor couldn't pay a debt that he owed, if he didn't have the money or if he didn't have the goods to return to, you know what I mean, or whatever the case is, to pay a debt, then you were the next property on the table to be rented out, to be used as collateral. You know what I mean? Just like, you know what I mean, you wanna fund your black owned business, because I know now, you know what I'm saying, since we so spiritual and since we on a different tip, I know brothers and sisters trying to get their financial literacy on, which ain't nothing wrong with that. We trying to get our financial literacy on. So you might mortgage your, you know what I mean, you might mortgage your home, you know what I mean, try to get a loan to fund your black owned business, right? Well, your oppressor, you know what I mean, they had you for collateral. You know what I mean? You putting up your house for collateral so that you can fund your endeavors for the year. Your oppressor used you, black man, Hispanic man, Native American man, as collateral. So if you had any debt that or your oppressor had any debt that they had to repay, they was renting out your services. You know what I mean? Your slavery, your back, your knees, your hands. Where we at? Let me see. We'll skip down a paragraph. It says some enslaved people were put up for auction that day or held under contracts that started in January. These transactions also took place all year long, and contracts could last for different amounts of time. These deals were conducted privately among family, friends, and business contacts. And slaves were handed over in town squares, on courthouse steps, and sometimes simply on the side of the road. So this is this is why it was called Heartbreak Day, because with us being property, we didn't know, you know what I'm saying? We sat around dreading New Year's. We was dreading New Year's because we knew during what they call it, hiring day, or during hiring day or heartbreak day, they were, you know what I mean, you didn't know whether you was gonna lose your mother, your father. You don't know if you was gonna lose your daughter, your son, your brother, your sister, your you know what I mean, all of those things. You don't know if you was gonna, you know what I'm saying, you was gonna lose your husband or your wife. You don't know how your family is gonna be divided up. So what do? You know what I mean? That's where our superstitions come from, because during during heartbreak day, since we were property, we could be divided up or we could not be divided up. You know what I mean? But we had no power in our hands to change our situation. So what do? Now we eating black eyed peas and collard greens for good luck and money. You know what I mean? We doing all these superstitious things. We making sure we, you know what I'm saying, we making sure we clean up, cuz that's the only thing that we could control. You know what I mean? We was so, you know what I mean, we felt so powerless and helpless, you know what I mean, every year, where you might, you know what I mean, you got a whole family. You might have a family with a husband, a wife, 3 kids, and maybe some grandparents. And then, you know what I mean, one heartbreak, what they call it? Salakia. A heartbreak day, Salakia. One heartbreak day, you might, you know what I mean, you might have your great grandfather, you know what I mean, sold to another plantation across the country. And your newborn child sold into captivity and on the other side of the country or the other side of the world. You know what I mean? And then the next heartbreak day, now you might lose your wife. Your wife might be sold into captivity, or whatever the case is. You might lose another one of your children. Or you might, you know what I'm saying, you might get sold. So now you done lost your whole family. Your whole family done lost you. And now, you know what I mean, now these children got to grow up without a family, without parents. So maybe, you know what I mean, and then you got heartbreak day after heartbreak day. You got hiring day after hiring day, year by year. You know what I mean? So now we start to doing these superstitious practices to try to bring some sort of good luck or some good favor to our situation. I mean, that's where all that burning sage come from, and you know what I mean, all these silly, you know what I mean, you don't want to split the pole and all these silly practices that we have. It comes from this. It comes from being powerless, man. That's where it comes from. But you get the idea. You know what I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse. Let me see. Lock you. All right, where we at with it? Let's get Proverbs real quick. Proverbs chapter 14 real quick. And this is, you know what I'm saying, just to bring it back home real quick. Proverbs chapter 14. Cause again, you know what I mean, we follow after these customs and these holidays and this, that, and third, and you know what I mean, we follow after these customs and these holidays and whatever the case is, and we think that it's just all about the fun. We just think it's all fun and games and all fine and dandy, and we just, I mean, we can't live without these things. Like, Lord forbid you don't pop a firework on New Year's Eve. I mean, Lord forbid you don't go out to the club and get pissed drunk and you know what I mean, end up getting in some situation, you know what I mean, or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? Lord forbid we don't celebrate Christmas with our families. Lord forbid we don't go to that Thanksgiving dinner with our families. Because we just think it's all fun and we just think it's all great and good. You know what I mean? Lord forbid you put down that blunt. You know what I mean? Your life is you ever see somebody who, you know what I'm saying, who used to smoking, getting high all the time, and then they stop getting high? Or they can't get high? That's gonna be a totally different person you dealing with. They gonna be look, it's just gonna be a totally different person. You know what I mean? And that's because, you know what I mean, that's what we lean on for comfort. But what we gotta understand is the things that we lean on for comfort is vain. And the reason why we feel the need to lean on these things for comfort is because of the one thing that we don't want to acknowledge or admit, because we feel like God loves everybody, or we feel like we gotta love everybody. Is that you oppressed in this world, and that your oppressor is the devil. The Bible speaks of. He's the number one deceiver in this earth, and your life would be 100% better if your oppressor was not ruling over you. But we feel powerless to be able to change that situation. We feel powerless to be able to get your oppressor's boot off of your neck or to get their rulership from over you. So instead of doing that, instead of just ruling, you know what I mean, stepping into rulership and getting from up under our oppressor, we turn to things like getting high. We turn to things like celebrating Christmas and waiting up all night, baking cookies for some pink man to come down your chimney and watch it kids. And this, that, and the third, you name it. We lean on those things. We lean on alcoholism and drug abuse and riotous living and you know what I mean, just sleeping with whoever will give you some. That's what we lean on for comfort, because we feel powerless. That's what you got to understand, black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. But the Lord gave us the blueprint for us to have the power. See, that's the whole point. Like, this is not the Christian church. Like, we're not talking about like, when you go to the Christian church and they talk about power and all of that, they talking about you getting money and you getting power over your own people and you feeling some sort of emotional burst of just good emotion and all, you know what I'm saying, making you feel all warm and fuzzy. And so that's the type of power that your Christian church is talking about. But the power that this Bible is actually talking about is real live power, like physical power. Like, you have the power, like again, like it says in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 6, like it says in Deuteronomy chapter 7, it says that the Most High wanted us to be above all people, that we're a special people above all people. That's what the scriptures say about blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And that's where you're going to get your power from. But the only way that we can actually be above all people is to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments. And if you follow these laws, statutes, and commandments, you can't. The scriptures say that He'd rather for us to be He'd rather for it to be hot or cold. But if you decide, you know what I mean, that you're not celebrating Christmas, or you going to leave the Christian church, but you're going to celebrate Christmas, you lukewarm. Because you leaving that Christian church that taught you all them lies, but then you take them lies right at home, and then you essentially become the Christian church, because you go home and teach your kids them lies. You know what I mean? Even though you know full well there ain't no damn Santa Claus. Or that you buying them damn presents. You know the reality behind Thanksgiving, but you do the Christian remix, and you like, oh, it's just for the family. I mean, that's lukewarm. But if you're going to separate from the Christian church, you got to separate from everything that they do. You know what I mean? Put down that Christmas, put down that New Year, put down that Thanksgiving, put down that Valentine's Day. And that's what's going to get blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in their rightful place of rulership over all these nations, because we're kind. Once we get rulership over this earth, like the Most High intended, we're going to rule with we're going to be kind, man. Scriptures say that when the wicked is in rulership, the world will or it says when the wicked is in rulership, the people will mourn. But when the righteous is in rulership, the people will rejoice. You see the condition in the world today, it's mourning because your oppressor is in rulership. But you are the righteous, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You are the righteous of this world. And if you are in rulership, this world will be in a whole lot better condition than the condition that your oppressor left it in. Let's get Proverbs chapter 14, verse 12. It says, there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. See, it might seem right to celebrate New Year's, you know what I'm saying, bust them fireworks and have yourself a good old time, get that barbecue grill going. I mean, it might seem right to have your family over for Christmas and Thanksgiving. It might seem right to celebrate your kid's birthday and, you know what I mean, celebrate Mother's Day and Father's Day. It might seem right to do all of those things. But as we read in this article earlier, these things are man-made. And all of those things seem right to man, but it says, but the end thereof are the ways of death. You know what I mean? It might seem right to celebrate Thanksgiving and Halloween and Christmas and New Year's and all of those different things. It might seem good. It might seem right. But at the end of the day, that's the reason why we are depressed. That's the reason why we feel helpless. That's why we feel powerless, because we join to our oppressor. That's the reason why. The end thereof are the ways of death, man. You celebrate, you know what I'm saying? You keeping all these your oppressor's customs and clinging to your oppressor, making marriages with your oppressor, trying to love everybody. The end thereof are the ways of death. Doing all those things, you walking right into a furnace. You walking right into that burning house that Martin Luther King was talking about. But the ways to life are in these scriptures. Let's go ahead and get let's go ahead and get that. Let's get Deuteronomy chapter. Get Deuteronomy chapter 28 real quick. And I'm gonna show you exactly what we mean by that. You know what I mean? So this is Deuteronomy. Let's start with Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. And this is why we feel powerless. You know what I mean? This ain't nothing spooky that I'm saying up here that we, you know what I'm saying, that we teach in the ISUPK. This ain't nothing spooky or magical. This is exactly what the Most High said would happen. It says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. See, this is what we be talking about when we mention, you know what I'm saying, when we bring up the importance of these laws, statutes, and commandments. I mean, it might sound like, I know you tired of hearing it. I know. You know what I mean? Because that Christian church has made you so comfortable that hearing the truth just makes you too uncomfortable and you just don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? I know a lot of y'all done been turned this class off. I'm talking to myself right now. But, you know what I mean? You reading these scriptures, you know what I mean? And it says if we won't listen, if we don't hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God to observe to do all these commandments, then all these curses will come over us. This is the proof right here. And I bet you ain't never heard this in your Christian church. You will never hear this in your Christian church because That's not what they're commissioned to do. They're not you know what I'm saying? They haven't been raised up to, you know what I mean, to teach you the truth. They haven't exalted themselves over you to teach you the truth, to give you some sort of spiritual guidance. They teaching you lies. That's the whole point. They want to teach you lies, man. They want to teach you that the law is done away with. And that's the number one thing they want to teach you in a Christian church. The law is done away with. That's the, you know what I mean? You won't hear enough of that. The law is done away. I ain't heard not one law, statute, or commandment, you know what I mean, ever. When I was in a Christian church, I ain't heard nobody mention not a single, you know what I mean, law, statute, or commandment. But yet, this is the reason why we in this condition of helplessness. And we're going to see how real this is. We're going to look at a couple of these curses and see how real this is in our lives. It says, curse shalt thou be in the city, and curse shalt thou be in the field. I mean, so you over here, you know what I mean? We poor, you know what I mean? We over here, you probably full to the brim with black eyed peas and collard greens, trying to get some good luck and trying to bring some money in your pocket. I know, you know what I mean? Another superstition that brothers and sisters, I mean, they say what, when your hand itch, you rub it on your pocket, and that means you got some money coming. Nah, you just need to wash your hands. And it's not because your hand itching, or it's not because, you know what I mean, your hand itching, you don't rub it on your pocket fast enough. That's not the reason why you poor. It's because we don't follow these law, statutes, and commandments. So we cursed in the city and cursed in the field. Verse 17, cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. You know what I mean? We don't have no stores. You know what I mean? And your wallet is empty. Black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. Them food stamps is almost gone already. You just got them. And they almost gone. You know what I mean? That child support, even though you got that man on child support, you got 4, 5 baby daddies on child support, that money still ain't enough. You know what I mean? And then you brothers, you know what I mean? You got all these kids and all these different baby mamas, and they all got you on child support. You working this excellent job. You making excellent money, but you still struggling to make ends meet because we cursed. We cursed. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land and the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. We don't even have no land. We don't have no land, no livestock, no none of that. And the only thing we do got, which is our bodies, you know what I mean, the fruit of that is cursed as well. You know what I mean, you see how you know what I mean, you see how, you know, abortions and I mean, the abortion rates is going through the roof. I know, you know what I'm saying, I know it's rare to run into a sister who can actually have children. You know what I mean, it's sad to say, but it's rare to find where, you know what I mean, you might want to have children with a sister, but she didn't have her, you know what I mean, her hardware, you know what I mean, scraped out so many times, getting all these abortions or getting, you know what I mean, taking all these strange drugs or going through all this abuse, you name it. Man, it's, you know what I'm saying, by the time you actually want to start a family, I mean, you can't even do it because them eggs is fried. Sister in her late 20s, early 30s, or mid to late 20s, early 30s, where you supposed to be, you know what I'm saying, you supposed to be right and ready to have kids, can't even have kids because of all the curses that we suffer because we don't follow these law, statutes, and commandments. And here's the let's go ahead and go to verse 68 real quick. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by way thereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. See, now you might be able to get around it. You know what I mean? You might be able to get around it like, nah, the reason why we ain't got no land is because we don't come together and buy land. You know, I know the blackity blacks, you know what I mean, the black people, the so-called woke people, you You know what I mean? We talking about buying land, which is, you know what I'm saying? Again, there ain't nothing wrong with buying land and, you know what I'm saying, coming together, putting your pennies together and trying to, you know what I mean, invest in one another. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's not the reason why we in this condition. It's not because we can't put our money together and get our own businesses. Because how do I know this? Because we did this during Black Wall Street. We had over 700 black businesses in America. Where they at now? See, the problem ain't that we can't put our money together and come together. The problem ain't that we ain't educated, or we just don't have the desire to come together. The problem is bullets hurt. That's the problem, that our businesses were flammable. So your oppressor can burn them down. That's the problem. But the problem is, you know what I mean, we get hung on nooses and our necks break when we get hung on nooses. That's the problem. That our clothes are flammable. That's the problem. But, you know what I mean, you got some blackity blacks, or you got, you know what I mean, your oppressor might tell you, or you just got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So you might be able to get around it. You know what I mean? You try to get around it reading these other curses. But this right here is a prophecy clean out of the Bible that you will not have gotten otherwise, other than reading these scriptures. And this is describing our captivity in America. It says, the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Now, the Most High just brought us out of Egypt. And he's saying that we will go into Egypt again with ships. Now, fast forward to America. When do we go back to Egypt? You know what I mean? You got black people who, sidebar, you got black people who think they African trying to go back to Egypt, trying to go back to the so-called motherland, who can't go to Egypt. So it's not talking about going to physical Egypt. And when do we ever go to Egypt, physical Egypt in Africa, by ships? But what you got to understand, that word Egypt, which is matazarium in the Hebrew, means bondage. And you could look it up. You know what I mean? We're going to say that for, you know what I mean? This ain't Lashawan Kodash class. We're going to say that for Friday. But, you know what I mean? You go into this Bible Hub, you know what I'm saying? Go to 2-letter lookup and put in Egypt. Look up Egypt and find out what Egypt is in Hebrew. And you break it down. Matazarium means bondage. So it says, and the Lord shall bring thee into bondage again with ships, by the way thereof I spake unto thee. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Now what place do we go into? What place do we go into by way of ships was sold as bondmen and bondwomen? Right here in America. Now this is a prophecy. This is something we reading this in Deuteronomy, which is thousands of years ago. And this is what the Most High said would happen to us if we didn't follow these laws, statutes, and commandments. Now, why are we in Deuteronomy? Why are we reading all these depressing curses? Well, what you got to understand is the reason why you cleave unto these superstitions so heavy, like we do black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. We getting these pot of collard greens, even though, you know what I mean, we know they ain't going to change our lives worth a damn. I mean, pot of collard greens ain't going to change our condition. You know what I mean? Black eyed peas ain't gonna change our condition. You crossing your fingers and you wishing upon a star, and it's another one too. The what they call them, the angel numbers, the spiritual numbers. You look at the clock and it's 11:11. You gotta make a wish, and you see a shooting star, and you see it's 5:55, 4:44, 3:33. You gotta spark that blunt and for good luck, or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? Or you trying to or whatever the case is, you know what I mean? You trying to play matchmaker with these horoscopes. The reason why we cling on to these superstitions is because we feel powerless, man. And the reason why we feel powerless is because we're not following these laws, statutes, and commandments. We just read these curses. These curses are what we deal with in this world today. Let me read another one real quick. Let's read verse 43. Says, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. Verse 44, he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. See, this is describing how your oppressor has gotten very high above you, black man, Hispanic man, Native American man. And it all comes down to what verse 15 said. It said, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God to observe and to do all these commandments and the statutes which I command unto thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So all of these are curses as a result of us not following these laws, statutes, and commandments. That's why we drive it home so heavy on these laws, on these scriptures, man, because it's the truth and we see it. So you might not believe in this Bible, you might not believe that these laws mean anything, but you can't deny Deuteronomy 28 verse 68, where we go into bondage with ships thousands of years before the transatlantic slave trade. You can't deny that. You can't deny those things. You can't deny that the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. You can't deny that. And that's a result of us not following these law, statutes, commandments. Every single nation that surrounds us, the so-called African man, which we are not, the so-called Asians, the Chinese and the Japanese, the so-called Middle Eastern, the Arabs, every other nation that comes over here, they come up above us very high, and we come down very low. You know what I mean? We can't deny that. We can't deny that. Now, that's why we feel hopeless, man, because we experiencing these curses, man. And we don't know how to get up out of here because your Christian pastor won't teach you the truth according to the Bible. They won't teach you to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments. They want to teach you that the law is done away with, that you can just live whatever sort of riotous life that you want to live. You can get as high as you want. You can be as LGBTQ as you want. You can believe in what you want. You can celebrate Christmas. You can celebrate New Year's. You can do this, that, and the third. Whatever the case is, whatever you want to do, your Christian pastor is going to tell you can do it. So we just hopeless when we don't even have a solution. We don't even know why. We don't even know why we hopeless or why we in this hopeless condition or how to get out of it. But we're going to teach you right now. We're going to show you. This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. See, this is the solution. See, we showed you why you feel hopeless, why you feel hopeless, and how your hopelessness leads you to superstition. And now we're gonna show you how to get your hope back, so you don't have to be superstitious. See, when you follow these law, statutes, and commandments, you don't need black eyed peas to give you good luck. You know that if you follow these law, statutes, and commandments, the Most High is gonna be with you. He's gonna set you above all nations. That don't take luck. That just takes obedience. That don't take hope. That just takes obedience. To put down that blunt. To stop celebrating New Year's. Stop celebrating Christmas. You know what I mean? Put down that ham hock. You know what I mean? These abominable foods. This pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster. You know what I mean? Gather together with your brothers in this one body. You know what I mean? That's how we get set on high above all people on the face of this earth. Like the scripture say in Deuteronomy chapter 28 in verse 1. That's how you do it. That's how you get out of this condition. And the cold part about it, that you'll understand is that your oppressor knows this as well. Like you think it's an accident. You think it's an accident that your oppressor then gave your Christian pastor this curriculum of what they can and can't teach blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, what you can and cannot say on the internet, what you can and cannot, you know what I mean, what you can and cannot say or teach, or what you can and cannot say or put in movies, what you can and cannot put in cartoons. You think that's an accident? It's not. And what you got to understand is that your oppressor very well understands who we are and how they're going to keep us down. they very well understand Deuteronomy chapter 28. They understand if we follow these laws, statutes, and commandments, then we're going to be put on high above all nations. And if we don't follow these laws, statutes, and commandments, then we're going to be at the bottom. And these other nations can get above us very high. Let's see. Let me, you know what I'm saying? Let me prove it in the Bible that your oppressor knows who you are. Book of Judas chapter 5. We're going to get, Judas chapter 5, verse 17. Now to give you a little context, because we about to, you know what I'm saying, we about to wrap it on up. To give you a little bit of context. So this is, you know what I mean? So, okay, I'm going to read verse 1 just for context. So then it was declared to Holofernes, the chief captain of the army of Ashur, that the children of Israel had prepared for war and had shut up the passages of the hill country and had fortified all the tops of the high hills and had laid impediments in the Champagne countries. So this nation is coming against, I believe, the Assyrians. I can't remember the exact nation, but these other nations is coming up against, these nations is coming against, you know what I'm saying? This is a nation that's conquering, you know what I mean, just conquering land. And Israel's in the midst of it. Israel's in the midst of this conquer. So this nation, this captain, or this ruler, the chief captain of the army of Ashur, you know what I mean? He just taking land. He moving. He taking land. He conquering land, right? And Israel's in the midst of it. So they hear about it. They hear about this. I mean, they seeing what's going on. So they start arming themselves up. They start preparing for war. So they start, like it said in verse 1, it said, the children of Israel prepared for war and had shut up the passages of the hill country and fortified all the tops of the high hills and laid impediments in the Champagne country. So we start, you know what I mean? We start taking the high ground. We start laying, you know what I mean? Laying, you know what I'm saying? Stumbling blocks for, you know what I mean? This nation, so that we can protect ourselves, right? Because we see how they moving. And this ruler, like, man, who is these people, man? Who are these people down here? They see what I'm doing. You know what I mean? They on some get down or lay down type stuff. They on some get down or lay down type stuff. So they like, man, who are these people, man? They see how I'm moving out here. Man, who is they to where they think that they could come up against us, man? Why ain't we taking them out yet? I mean, this is the type of time he on. And so he go to his commander, right? He go to his captain, right? The next in command of his army. He like, man, who is these people, man? Tell me about these people. And this is what he say. Let's go to verse 17. It say, and whilst they sinned not before their God, they prospered because the God that hate iniquity was with them. Meaning, he knew that. Look, he knew that. Look, like I know they're an obstacle. I know you want to get them up out of there, but you know what I'm saying. Let's lead them. We got to leave them alone for right now, because why they sin not against the Most High, like we just read in Deuteronomy. Why they sin not against the Most High? I mean, they prosper in everything. They prosper in everything because the Most High is with them. Verse 18, but when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in many battles very sore, and were led captives into the land that was not theirs, and their temple of God was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by the enemies. Meaning they knew, you know what I mean, if we was following the law, statutes, and commandments, we was following these instructions that the Most High left for us in Deuteronomy chapter 28, I mean, they couldn't touch us. But if they got us to deviate from these laws, statutes, and commandments, then they could make a move and infiltrate us and destroy us in battles and be victorious over us and have us suffer all these curses that we just read in Deuteronomy. See, that's the problem. That's something that your Christian pastor will never tell you, man, because they got your oppressor's agenda in mind. You know what I mean, but this is what your oppressor knows about our people that we don't know. And whose fault is that? See, this is why since 1969, these priests and prophets in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge has been teaching blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans the truth. We've been feeding and clothing and counseling and supporting blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans and teaching blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to gather together. I mean, that's the only way we're going to get up out of this condition. You know what I mean? These keyboard warriors online, you know what I mean, talking trash on the internet, you know what I'm saying? They don't, you know what I mean? They're not going to get nothing done, man. But the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge has been getting it done. You know what I mean? We got the track record, man. These brothers, man, these brothers in the truth, you know what I'm saying? Some of these brothers, these captains and these generals especially, they got boots that's older than these keyboard warriors, man. I mean, but, you know what I'm saying? Brothers and sisters, man, we got to understand that the condition that we in is not accidental, man. The condition that we in is not accidental, and us being we got to stop being foolish, man. We got to stop being foolish and following these heathen customs just because it feels good. Like, I know it feels good to put that blunt to your lips. I know it feels good to put that blunt to your lips. I know it feels good to eat that Thanksgiving turkey and that ham hock and to unwrap them Christmas presents. I know it feels good, man. I know it feels good to be a solo, you know what I'm saying, solo out there, you know what I mean? I know it feels good to be a lone wolf. You know what I mean? All of that. It might sound good. You know what I mean? I feel like you got all the answers and, you know what I mean, you know what I'm saying, have all your brothers or have all your friends, you know what I mean, feel like you just so wise and smart, you know what I mean? I know that feel good, all of that. I know all the things that we cling to, all the superstitions and all the, you know what I'm saying? I know it feels good to do all of those things. But like we said before, like we read in Proverbs chapter 14 earlier, there might be a way that seems right to a man, but the way thereof are death, man. You know, unless we all gather together under this one banner in the ISUPK, which started in 1969, man. Unless we gather together under this one banner, get in order, gather our nation together, you know what I mean, and stop playing around, we gonna always be in this condition, man. Or, you know what I mean, when Christ come back and crack the sky, you know what I mean, you gonna find your head on the floor next to your feet. And when that, you know what I'm saying, when that day comes, you know what I mean, it's just too late. But with that, I mean, I don't see no questions. I don't see any questions in the chat. I don't see any comments worth addressing in the chat. If you in class though, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the class. You know what I mean? Tell your peoples about the ISUPK, man. Tell them what we've been doing since 1969. Tell them about all the food drives we've been holding. Tell them about, you know what I mean, all the classes we've been holding, how we've been, you know what I'm saying, all the counseling programs we got for our brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? Tell them about the truth, man, so that brothers who actually need the truth, man, you know what I mean, can actually get it and actually get the answers for the condition that we live in this world, man. But go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the class. You know what I mean? With that, we're going to say Imadium, which means to stand. We're going to give a courtesy salute to the brothers. Individual Madra Shabbat, Imadium, Barak, Yahweh Shim Yahweh Brakathum. Yajimata, Sar, we'll give a courtesy salute to the sisters. Individual Madra Shabbat, Imadium, Barak, Yahweh Shamar Latham Bashim Yahweh Yajimata,
Dismiss.